Chapter 1. The Autumn We First Met. October 2015. I remember the sound before the sight, a violin, fragile but certain, echoing off the stone walls of the Met. I had just finished restoring a painting 2 centuries old, brushing time back into color. Outside, beneath the marble steps, a man played as if the city had stopped to listen. His name was Max. He looked up, caught my eyes, and smiled the kind of smile that doesn't need language. I dropped a small sketch into his case, a reflex of gratitude, and kept walking, pretending not to care. But I did. He smelled of cedar and rain, and when I closed my eyes that night, I could still hear his bow chasing the air. He said music was how he kept time from running out. I said art was how I learned to fix it once it did. That was the first day of forever, or what we thought forever would be.
Chapter 2. Golden Hour in Washington Square. Our first date was not elegant. A hot dog cart. A borrowed napkin. He wrote the title of a song, Golden Hour in Ohio, and said, "Someday I'll play this for you where the sky's big enough to listen." We wandered under the Washington Square arch until the streetlights came on. He talked about touring Europe. I talked about painting light that never fades. We were dreamers, young, broke, and terrified of nothing. Back in Brooklyn, our apartment was small enough to hear each other breathe. We learned the rhythm of subway trains and how to make mac and cheese taste like hope. He'd play, I'd paint. And sometimes, in the middle of a storm, we'd dance barefoot on the kitchen floor. We planned a future in subway rides and thrift store furniture. Love was the only luxury we could afford.
Chapter 3. The Little Apartment of Everything. Those years felt endless, the kind of love that makes you certain the universe built itself around 2 people. He'd leave sticky notes with small poems. I'd hide sketches of him in the violin case. But ambition has a way of finding cracks. He dreamed of stages in Vienna and Paris. I dreamed of my mother's hands, tired, aging, waiting for me back home in Ohio. I didn't know that dreams can collide quietly, not with shouting, but with silence that grows between 2 breaths. Chapter 4. The Offer and the Goodbye. Spring 2017. The night it ended, rain hammered against the window. He paced, letter in hand, a 6-month European tour. Max: 6 months, Elle. I'll send money. You'll visit. Elena: my mom's sick. I can't leave her. Max: I can't stay. The air went cold. I left his key on the table. He didn't chase me. Some endings don't scream, they sigh, and the silence that follows is forever. Chapter 5. 8 Years Apart. 2017-2023. Time is not a healer. It's a sculptor, shaping you while you're too busy surviving to notice. After Max left, I went home to Ohio, the same house I grew up in, the one that smelled like old varnish and my mother's lavender soap. I spent the next 3 years caring for her, watching her body fade, but never her kindness. Sometimes she'd ask about New York, about him, and I'd say, he's probably on a stage somewhere, as if saying it made the distance less cruel. When she died, the house became too quiet to bear, so I filled the silence with work, restoring church murals in Toledo, paintings of saints and halos and hands reaching for light. I remember one winter, alone in the cathedral, I thought, maybe this is what love really is, fixing what time has broken even when no one's watching. Meanwhile, Max was chasing his own ghosts. Tour buses, hotel rooms, neon signs blurring past rain-soaked windows. Every night, he played for people who clapped without knowing his name, and every morning he woke to the echo of a song he never finished, Golden Hour in Ohio. There was one night, I later learned, when he played on a bridge in Portland during a downpour. No stage, no spotlight, just him and the sound of water. Someone filmed it. It went viral for a week. I watched it once, secretly, on my phone at 2 a.m. His hair was longer, his eyes older, but when he smiled at the end of the song, my heart did that same stupid thing. We became ghosts in each other's stories, and yet, somehow, we never stopped haunting them. Chapter 6. Homecoming, October 2025. 10 years after we met, I came back to New York. Not for him, at least that's what I told myself, but for a fellowship at the Met. Life had come full circle, but I had changed. Less afraid, more honest, more aware of what I could lose. The city was different, too. Quieter in places that used to shout. The subway musicians were younger. The leaves in Central Park still turned red, but I noticed the gaps where trees had fallen. I spent my first week alone, walking the same routes we once took, buying coffee from the same cart, sitting on our bench by the fountain. Every time the wind brushed my hair, I imagined it was him. Every violin note that floated across the park, for one brief second, I hoped. Sometimes the past doesn't knock. It just waits for you to come back. Chapter 7. The Second Glance. He found me before I found him, or maybe the universe decided we'd waited long enough. He was playing at a wedding gig, the same song he wrote for me, Golden Hour in Ohio, now arranged for strings and piano. I froze when I heard it, the melody carrying across the park like a memory with perfect aim. When he saw me, the bow slipped from his hand and hit the ground. 8 years disappeared in one heartbeat. We met the next morning in a small coffee shop on 72nd Street. The same nervous energy, but older, softer. Elena, you kept the scarf I knitted? Max, only thing I didn't pawn. We laughed until the years between us stopped feeling like punishment. He told me everything, how he burned out, how he quit touring, how he busked on sidewalks because stages started feeling too far from real life. I told him about the murals, my mother, and the way I'd learned to be happy without applause. We sat there until closing time, the world outside dimming into orange light. When we finally stood, we didn't say goodbye. We just promised, quietly, tomorrow, same time. Chapter 8. The Song Returns, Bethesda Fountain Sunset. He was already there when I arrived, Bethesda Fountain, glowing in the last light of October. He stood under the same trees where we once made promises we didn't keep. He smiled, shyly, and pulled from his pocket a faded Polaroid, the two of us in 2015, laughing mid-kiss in the Brooklyn rain. Max, I wrote you 47 songs, never sent one. Elena, I fixed a painting once, two lovers, their hands cracked apart. I couldn't fix us. He lifted his violin. The bow touched the strings, and the first note of Golden Hour in Ohio filled the park, no longer melancholy, but whole. The melody was older, like us, the same, but more true. As he played, I saw every version of us that ever existed,
The dreamers, the fighters, the ghosts. When the song ended, he stepped closer, eyes wet, voice trembling. Max, marry me. Not the us from 2015, the us now, older, wiser, still in love. The fountain lights flickered on. People cheered quietly from the benches, but for us, the world had already stopped. I said yes, and this time it meant forever.
Chapter 9. The Promise Kept. 1 year later. 1 year later, we married in my mother's backyard in Toledo. It rained in the morning, then cleared to sunlight so bright it turned every puddle into gold. I wore her veil, the one she promised would bring luck. Max played the processional himself, tears slipping down his cheek halfway through the song. There were no luxury flowers, no grand ballroom, just friends, a wooden arch, and the smell of wet grass. When we said our vows, I felt time bend, as if the universe was exhaling, saying, finally. Love doesn't always come back the same. Sometimes it limps, sometimes it stumbles, but if it finds you again, it means it never left.
Chapter 10. Forever, After All. Central Park again. Another October. The trees, the fountain, the wind. All familiar, all reborn. Our son runs ahead of us, a tiny violin bow clutched in his hand. He stops at the fountain, tries to mimic the way his father plays. Awkward, joyful, unstoppable. I look at Max, his hair a little grayer, his smile still the same. He catches my gaze, and for a moment it's 2015 again. The girl who drew light, the boy who made it sing. I whisper, we finally got it right. He nods. The wind carries the sound of laughter and violin strings. Some love stories don't end. They just take the long way home. Music swells. Fade to silence. End card narration. Dedicated to second chances. If your heart still remembers, it's never too late.